Hi, this is Kevin. I'm back for part two of the Schwalbe Chapter 8 lecture, and we're going to begin with project cost management. So, cost control includes monitoring cost performance, ensuring that only appropriate project changes are included in a revised cost baseline, and informing project stakeholders of authorized changes to the project that will affect costs. Outputs include work performance information, cost forecasts, change requests, project management plan updates, and project document updates. Okay. Um, so before we move off of this slide number 35 here, I just want to point out that it's very easy to lose track of the actual cost to date on a project. Um, Most of us who manage projects are not doing the cost accounting for the project. Okay, and we may be logging hours against the project and other things like that. But there are other people who are responsible, who work for the accounting department and who work for the finance department, who are really responsible for getting all these numbers. Okay. I just want to say that it's a tall order for a project manager to uh, keep abreast of what's been charged to their project. Okay, and it's possible to ask for numbers and get the wrong ones. Okay, it's possible to look at the charges for your project and find that things have been charged to your project that should have been charged to somebody else's project. Okay, so this a level of sophistication in terms of the local accounting system and understanding the reports and understanding the procedures goes a long way for PM. They never say that in project management books or courses, but the School of Hard Knocks has taught me that uh, it's very important to be sensitive to this and to be good at navigating it. So tools and techniques for controlling costs, expert judgment, data analysis, project management information systems to complete performance index. Okay, so um, you can kind of rely on your expert judgment or the judgment of others as you look at the costs and say, you know, I think these costs are about right for this point in the project. You could analyze the data. You could take a data science kind of view to it. Project management information systems are things like um, well, Microsoft Project, which is not all that sophisticated, has a way for us to enter actual values and chart them against parts of the project. And the two complete performance index, well, that is a part of earned value management that we talked about already. So here on this slide 37, we talk about cost overruns in construction projects. And the fact is, um, I feel really good seeing this because the textbook that I used to use for this course was Kathy Schwalbe's book. It was a series, it was only about information technology project management. And the book was forever saying what a poor job we did in IT of managing projects and their costs and their schedules. And here we're saying, well, you know, that's true in other industries as well. So if you look at, you know, the details on the slide here and the content from the book that supports it, um, there's The state of the art in managing projects is that it, it's hard to it's hard to manage the budget, and it's hard to manage the schedule, and some of that's just human nature. I think that we do better for trying, though. I think that if we didn't try, it would be worse, right? Okay, we're going to move on to quality management. So, key outputs of quality control include quality control measurements, verified deliverables, work performance information, change requests, project management plan updates, and project document updates. Outcomes of the quality management process are acceptance decisions. We've got deliverables, and they're either going to accept it or not. Rework if they weren't accepted, and process adjustments, which is to say, if we're having to do rework, we want to adjust our process so we're not going to have to do more rework in the later parts of the project. Um, Now, there are a lot of interesting quality control tools that you can bring to projects, and not all of them apply to all kinds of projects, but you can usually find a tool or two to use on your project that can create a lot of value. So there are some things that are used for data gathering, uh, checklists and check sheets. Um Statistical sampling of outputs from the project, questionnaires, surveys. And then we have data analysis, performance reviews, root cause analysis. We have inspection. Okay, so we're going to inspect the outputs. Are we going to inspect all of them? Or are we going to do sampling and only inspect the ones that we sampled and make inferences about the quality of the rest? We, we have testing and product evaluations. Uh, we have ways to uh, here it's called a data representation. Here at the ISCO, we would call this um, data visualization. Okay, so we have cause and effect diagrams, control charts, histograms, scatter diagrams, and of course we can always use meetings in which we review quality control issues. So let's look at these things or pictures of things, and then we'll come back and make sure that we covered all of the things. So this is a simple cause and effect diagram. We talked about them in previous chapters. Uh, they're also called Ishikawa diagrams because the um, it was Professor Ishikawa who came up with them or who popularized them. Um, the idea here is that we have some effect and we want to look at the potential causes, but then we want to we would either want to come up with the one root cause or we want to have a prioritized list, okay? Because not all things that lead to these kinds of problems have the same kind of impact. Here's a sample a check sheet. So this looks like problems with web pages. Okay, and we're looking at what the problems are and when they're happening. And so this is a good time to say that the thoughtful way to think about quality control is that when a project's processes are under control, the deviations from the standard are small and they're random. Okay. And so they're within some tolerance. Okay. And they're randomly distributed. As soon as the deviations from our standard get either large or there's a pattern to them, they're not random, then what we want to do is we want to intervene and we want to find out what's causing that pattern or what's causing the deviations to be large. And we want to fix that. And then we want to start up again. And what are we going to expect? We're going to expect the deviations to be small and random. Okay. So here, um, we're seeing that there are a lot more broken links than spelling errors. Okay. And we're not seeing things really go up or down for the most part. Okay. So what would we be looking for? Large deviations, patterns. Okay, because we can exploit both of those. And large deviations are, I guess, a pattern in their own right, aren't they? So this control chart is a way of visualizing data to be able to tell, to be able to know when we have deviations that are large because we set up these control limits. So when we go past them, then we're out, we're past the limit. We officially have a large deviation. So if we had some kind of machine that was turning out, I think the we an example that people use for this is you have a machine that's turning out rulers that are a foot long. Yeah, this is it. So we have a lower control limit of 11.9 inches and an upper of 12.10. If we get a ruler off the end of the machine that's 12.15, we're going to stop the machine and figure out why. Or we get one that's shorter, one that's 11.85, we're going to stop the machine. Okay, those are too big. We know that we can make adjustments and get them back under control. The other thing is that we're looking for the deviations above and below to be random, and we shouldn't expect them to be increasing. Uh, this is we this is a 7-run rule. So now we call these runs. We have 7 observations that are below the mean. Okay, and we also like in here we've got 7 observations that are below the mean. Okay, so again, these look like they're not random. Uh, like this one here. Uh, this one isn't beyond the limit, but if we were beyond the limit, then that would be large. Okay, and this behavior here is not random. Okay, so we're gonna stop the process. We're gonna intervene. We're gonna make adjustments, and then we're gonna get back to work. Okay, and you can think of that for a machine that's turning out rulers, and you can think about that as a team who's turning out web pages. It's the same deal. So we can look at data over, say, time periods with histograms. And again, what are we looking for? We're looking for patterns and trends that we can go exploit and improve the process. Here's a Pareto chart. Now, one of the interesting things about the Pareto chart is it's based upon the Pareto distribution, and the this person, Pareto, actually claimed that he was not the person who created these. Perhaps he popularized them. But the idea that you hear a lot is like 80% of the complaints are from 20% of the causes. Okay, so we want to map things out and look for those kinds of distributions. Okay, a scatter diagram. So here we're looking uh, at the relationship between age and rating, and we're seeing that it pretty much can be described by a straight line. If you ran a linear regression on this, you would see that it would be a straight line with a downward slope, and um, you would want, if you use linear regression, you could come up with a formula for the line where the errors away from the line would sum to zero. Okay, and again, what are we looking for? Well, we're looking for the deviation from uh, the regression line to be, we want them to be small and we want them to be random. Run charts. These are um, these are three kinds of defects happening over a certain number of days. Um, we see that for one of the defects, they're going consistently down. For another defect, they're going consistently up. For another one, they're up and down. Okay. Well, the one that's up and down, these are probably small differences and they're random. For the one where they're going consistently down, I think we ought to be worried about the fact that they're not random. Uh, for the one where they're going consistently up, we definitely ought to be worried about the fact that they're not random because it's a trend that we're going in the wrong direction. So again, we want the defects, we want the variations to be small and random. And when they're not, we want to stop the presses and intervene. Here's a sample flow chart that we're talking about. We want to make sure that people understand the our process. Okay, so we might create flowcharts so that our processes are more easily understood. Okay, that could be a way to improve our quality. And this is a cartoon that is kind of scary that I'll leave you to read on your own. Okay, project resource management um, is about controlling the resources being used on the project and monitoring them, plan versus actual, and that could be people or it could be things, or it could be some kind of expendables, could be usage, I guess, um, power usage, water usage, um, expendables of some kind. Making effective use of team members is addressed under managing the team process. We talked about that in another chapter. Tools and techniques include data analysis, problem solving, interpersonal and team skills, and project management information systems. We talked about those in another chapter. Key outputs include work performance information, change requests, project management plan updates, and project document updates. I I just want to point here that I want to point out that it's important for project managers to detect when they're not getting the resources that they were promised. And it's important for them to kind of make a stink when they're not getting the resources that they're promised. And this could be people, machines, uh, money to purchase things, right? So you're supposed to order hardware and software, and yet they say, "Well, no, we can't do that yet because we don't have the money to place the order." Okay, and I've seen too many project managers who are kind of team players that goes, "Oh, okay, well, you tell me when we can do it." It's very important for project managers to turn around and say, this is great. I'm a team player and I'm going to do whatever you want me to do, but I just want you to know, but this is going to make the project late. And they're going to say, how late? And you go, well, let me figure it out and I'll show you, right? You don't want to, because when you get to the end of the project and you are late, okay, if you haven't warned about that and had people kind of sign up for that change in the schedule, then they're going to say, well, you should have told us. Well, I thought you knew. Well, no, we didn't know. That's what they'll claim. Okay. So you have to realize when you're not getting the stuff that you were promised, and you got to make a stink in a team player way. Project communications management. So controlling communications involves monitoring and controlling communications throughout the project lifecycle to ensure that stakeholder information needs are met. Key outputs include work performance information, change requests, project management plan updates, and project document updates. Now, it doesn't say it here, and I don't think it says it in the textbook, but you could be sending reports to everybody in the world and they could not be reading them. Okay? Um, I think that that's one of the reasons that a lot of organizations have gone to these dashboards. Okay, so you turn your project into a red light and you get people's attention. But it's incumbent upon the project manager to make sure that people who are supposed to know the status of the project are reading the reports. Okay, and then one of the things they could do in terms of managing the stakeholders is to ask them what they thought about the last report. Um, why don't we walk through it? Okay, really check if people are actually reading this stuff. Project stakeholder management. Well, that's kind of the same thing. You cannot control your stakeholders, but you can control their level of engagement. I would reword this to say, but you can influence their level of engagement. You can't control people at all. You can influence them. Okay. Controlling or influencing stakeholder engagement involves monitoring overall project stakeholder relationships and adjusting strategies and plans for engaging stakeholders as needed. Talking to people, listening to people, asking them what they know, asking them how they feel. Those kinds of things go a long way for the PM. Outputs include work performance information, change requests, project management plan updates, project document updates. On some project, key stakeholders are members of the project team. Well, I'm going to point out that members of the project team are stakeholders all the time. I think what they're saying is some key client types are heavily integrated with the project team that's doing the project for the client. Okay, they're all stakeholders. Video highlights, a couple things here for you to play. I'm going to leave you to do that on your own. Project risk management. Okay. Monitoring and controlling risks involves implementing the risk response plans while continuing to identify and analyze new risks and evaluate risk process effectiveness. So, on a regular basis, we have to look at the risk plan and say, did any of these things happen, and do we need to, pull the eject lever, right? It's one thing to have identify the risk. It's another thing to have a plan for it. It's the third thing to execute the plan. Project teams sometimes use workarounds, unplanned responses to risk events when they don't have contingency plans in place. Outputs of risk control include work performance information, change requests, project management plan updates, project document updates. Sample risk register updates. Okay, so these are things that they did on the sample project in the textbook. I'll leave those for you to read. Procurement. Okay, so we got to move that along. Controlling procurements involves managing procurement relationships, monitoring contract performance, making changes, and taking corrective actions as needed, and closing out contracts. The contractual relationship is a legal relationship and as such is subject to state and federal contract laws. Somebody from the procurement or legal department or organization usually closes out contracts. You can't trust that. Okay. You, as a project manager, should know all the contracts that are related to this project, and you ought to make sure that you or somebody in procurement closes out every contract. Okay. I would say that you're jointly responsible for that. And there's a lot of reporting that goes on. Now, watch for constructive change orders. This is a pretty important thing, okay? Um, Constructive change orders are oral or written acts or omissions by someone with actual or apparent authority that can be construed to have the same effect as a written change order. So a change order is typically, when it's written, it's some kind of a document that documents a change to the agreed to deal, and it gives permission to the team to the change, and it usually includes an adjustment in the cost or the schedule or both. And the point here is that people on your project can have conversations with contractors, suppliers, or if you are a contractor or a supplier with your client, that they think are informal, but people on the other side are going to come to rely on them. And then the law is going to say that they're binding. So you have to be really sure that you and the people who work with you don't accidentally change the deal that you have with some other party when you're not intending to. Here's a document about from one of the sample projects of closing out a contract. So the PMBOK guide, the most recent one, the 7th edition, say that two things that are important in monitoring and controlling projects are adaptability and resiliency. And I think that that's a good thing to emphasize. One, as a new project manager, can come to expect that you can get away by saying, well, we're going to do everything by the book. Well, it's hard to do everything by the book when things are changing all the time. So you want to do them in an appropriate and thoughtful way. And to do that, you need to be both adaptable and resilient. Now, how might agile or hybrid projects be the same or different? Well, the daily Scrum and Sprint review meetings assist in monitoring and controlling agile projects. So, all of these sort of events that go on in this agile process are part of monitoring and controlling. Um, we could create documents um, to help us monitor and control burn charts, which would include burn down charts where we show all the work to be done in the sprint and how we're burning it down, or burn up charts, which shows what we've completed in the sprint, or a combination of that, sometimes called a combined burn chart. And of course, we want to measure our velocity, which is of course the estimation points um, burned down or burned up, depending upon how you look at it, uh, per sprint on an average basis. So here's a burn down chart. Okay. Uh, Here's a burn up chart. Okay. And you can compare the planned to the actual. Okay. Here's a velocity chart. And you probably shouldn't expect your velocity to be constant. It's probably going to be lower earlier on, and it's going to improve, and then it's going to kind of reach the steady state. Um, and that's it. So we're at the chapter summary. So I'm going to leave you to read that on your own. That's it for chapter 8. I'm going to say goodbye until next time. Bye bye.